Well, well, um, yesterday got quite interesting economically. if you were sort of paying attention, I wasn't. I wasn't paying attention yesterday until yesterday evening after I did my live stream. I went, well, what has been happening economically? Because I knew the bank had sort of announced that they were going to sort of buy back a lot of loans, but the news that followed on from that, especially in the evening, was super worrying because, as I said in my Good Morning shot this morning, the Bank of England basically said it had to step in because it had seen that the economy was not working, that the economy was frozen, in their words, and that if they had not acted, financial instruments and institutions would have essentially broke down, which could have led to a complete and economic disaster. You can't make this up. I am so shocked that you just cannot make this up. And of course, yesterday, and probably for the rest of today as well, a lot of Truss's closest allies are out there trying to bang the drum, saying that, oh no, this is fine. This is fine. Yeah, this is fine. This economic disaster. Yeah, that's fine. In fact, on Twitter, I think it was David Heggie. I hope I've pronounced his second name right, but he came out and said, yeah, we've reached the point where smashing the world economic system is part of Brexit. What? What? And you've also got yesterday calls to leave the IMF. However, Tory MPs are not happy. There's rumours that letters have already gone into the 1922 committee, and now there are calls to sack Kersey. And if you don't, there will be a mutiny. The thing is, Liz doesn't want to do that because historically, if a prime minister has had to sack their chancellor, then very quickly they come after the prime minister and they don't end up lasting long after that happens. So I keep on saying it, but this Tory conference could be very interesting, very interesting indeed. And of course, economically, what could happen as well during this time? The bank's already had to step in once. How many times would it have to step in? And how many times might it have to step in before it tries to do something? But even that is just not enough to try and save the economy. We are entering into some very, very worrying times, and it is caused by Truss and Kwarteng pursuing, well, Trussonomics. So let's get into what MPs are calling for today to sack Sack Kwarteng. So before we do get into that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, that hit that button, and also the subscribe button. And also down below there is the YouTube thank you button, and of course the one-off donation thing called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, and of course the YouTube subscription, where you can again join the Pony Club and you get all sorts of bells, whistles, and whatnot. But anyway, let's go diving into this because this is some interesting news to say the least. This comes from The Guardian with the title of Tory MPs tell Truss, sack Kwarteng or face mutiny. That's pretty stark. That's pretty stark. And bear in mind, officially as Prime Minister, she's had like 4 days properly on the job. She's still obviously sort of technically Prime Minister, but in sort of official days, she's only had like 4 or 5. So honestly, she doesn't look like she's going to last long, let alone even make it to Christmas. So let's get into this. Liz Truss is facing growing pressure from jittery Conservative MPs to sack Sack Kwarteng or face mutiny after the Bank of England's emergency intervention to address the turmoil in the financial markets. This move has prompted comparisons to 1992's Black Wednesday, when the UK was ignominiously ejected from the European exchange rate mechanism. Tory MPs expressed disbelief at how the sterling had slumped after the government's mini-budget sparked market turbulence. And it was compounded by the Chancellor's subsequent remarks at the time when households across the country were already struggling with the cost of living. They said that Kwarteng would have to resign for the party to survive the financial crisis, as they urged the Prime Minister to reverse her plan to scrap the top 45% tax rate, which they said had been received badly in their constituencies, and especially in the Red Wall as well. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Red Wall MPs are very, very nervous about that. Simon Hare, the Tory MP for North East Dorset, tweeted, in the words of Norman Leitman on Black Wednesday, he said, today has been a very difficult day, and there are not circumstances beyond the control of the government treasury, whether we're already there. The inept madness cannot go on. Yet, Downing Street has insisted that the Prime Minister was standing by her Chancellor. A spokesperson told The Guardian, they said the MP and the Chancellor were working on a supply side reforms needed to grow the economy, which will be announced in the coming weeks. And that'll be interesting what gets announced. That'll be very interesting because they've talked about these supply side reforms. Well, what are these reforms going to be? What exactly are they going to do? And if you've already seen the announcement, if you think this was, this is just part one, guys, and this is how badly the markets have reacted, wait until we see these supply side reforms, and you're going to see businesses, I think, kick off massively. I think you are going to see that. They are going to strip off, they are going to kick off massively about these reforms. Neither Kersey or Truss were prepared to comment publicly to claim that the markets and then reassure the public. Instead, they sent out the Treasury Financial Secretary, Andrew Griffith, who argued that, quote, all major economies were experiencing the same volatility as the UK as a result of the Russia's war in Ukraine. No, they're not. Are they having problems? Yes, but not to the extent we are. Not to the extent we are. This is where you get such funny things where they always talk about, oh, but look at other countries, they're having similar problems as well. Different problems affect countries in vastly different ways, and they have, a economy, their economics, their policies, their politics are vastly different, so it can affect things very, very differently. It is not the same, and you cannot keep on blaming the Russia-Ukraine war for this problem, because no one else is having a significant problem as we are. And we went on to say that this is impacting every major economy, told Sky News. In every major economy, you are seeing interest rates going up as well. Every major economy is dealing with the exact same issues, and the Bank of England has made this timely intervention. With what the Chancellor and I are focused on is delivering the economic growth plan. Well, it'd be great if you could actually tell us what this growth plan is. You haven't actually put forward what it entails. However, there was growing unease on the Conservative backbenchers over the mini-budget, with MPs calling for the government to make changes, and the very same warning privately of a rebellion with the Commons returns on the 11th of October unless Truss backs down. And that will be very, very interesting, because if you get a government putting forward a budgetary action and her own government cannot pass it, that is seen as essentially a vote of no confidence in the government. And at that point, if that fails, that could kick off a whole world of very interesting things that could start going on in the Tory party. Very interesting. Other former cabinet ministers, Julian Smith and even the backer of Rishi Sunak during the leadership campaign, tweeted this. It is critical that the government is honest about the current situation and plays its part in stabilising the markets. It cannot keep a growth plan, but it needs to make changes. Not doing so will only continue to further stress and put strain on UK citizens. Robert Langdon, the Tory MP for the Red Wall seat of High Peak, said, I have serious reservations about the number of announcements made by the Chancellor. I do not believe that cutting the top 45% tax rate is the right decision. When the government's financial room for manoeuvre is so limited, in my view, this is a mistake. I thought we would get a Red Wall MP sooner or later. The Tory chair for the Treasury Select Committee, Mel Stride, said that the party must try and avoid a political crisis at the top and a top of an economic one. The question is whether the plan is going to succeed. And it's hard it's hard to have an adverse reaction from the markets, he said. Privately, MPs went even further, suggesting the financial package had been a disaster and only a reversal of Friday's mini budget and a sacking of the Chancellor could get the party back on an even keel, while others have said that the damage was now irreversible. One MP said, Kersey will have to go. She won't have any option. They are already crashing the economy and she will need someone to blame. Another added, it's an extinction level stuff. It's like 2008, but worse. We're messing with the fundamental principle of providing a home for your family, and that's why it's different. It's real stuff. The public won't forgive or forget. Another MP said the markets have completely lost confidence in the British government. If you reverse everything, the government falls. So we're not going to do that. She should sack Kersey and appoint somebody else who could then make a few tweaks. I think that people are seriously underpricing the chance that it's all over, that the government is dead on arrival. Another senior Tory MP said the mood in the Conservative Party, which will meet for its annual conference in Birmingham on Saturday, was one of disbelief, they said. I don't think it's sustainable. I predict the Chancellor will get the sack and it will all unravel from there. One former minister said that Kersey should go, but Truss could not escape responsibility. They aren't really Kersey's policies. They are her policies, they said. And we know now that she is so catastrophic that it's hard to know what to demand that she does. Everything is so unforced. They urged the Prime Minister to ditch her Chancellor and trying to back a more experienced figure to oversee the Treasury. The only possible change possible that might reverse this is to change course and put more of the old back. No Kersey, no Chris Phillips. Install someone that is calm and confident, they says. Ken Clarke, the former Chancellor, said that Sack Kwarteng had made a catastrophic start from their time in government, that he hoped the mini budget was torn up. However, he told Sky News that he did not believe that Kwarteng would resign, adding that we cannot have a different Chancellor every other week. Labour is, of course, planning a series of very uncomfortable votes for the Conservatives throughout this legislation on the majority of tax cuts that may not be necessary for months and with changes due in April. The first Opposition Day debate is likely to be on fracking, which Labour can use to target individual MPs in their constituencies. Another MP said that those votes would very much crystalline the anger and lead to a mass rebellion in parliamentary votes. The real turning point for her might be when you start to see colleagues slaughtered in the voting lobbies. Aside from the economic crisis, we will win absolutely no votes with the public on deregulation, and Labour will force us to vote on one after another on the 45% bonuses and more nurses. If they start cutting public spending budgets, that will be disastrous. And yeah, you can see the trouble the party is in. You can see the absolute trouble that is coming down the line and these votes that are going to take place. So the conference is going to be interesting. If they come back on the 11th of October, there is going to be an absolute rebellion. These supply side reforms, I think businesses are going to kick off in a massive way because they're not going to be good. And then the markets will probably also react in another massive negative way. I do not see how Liz Truss survives up till Christmas. I really don't. I really don't see how she survives. And like I said, not too very long ago, we'll be doing the whole Tory, leadership contest song and dance all over again. And oh boy, will that be fun. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.